everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the award-winning fan show. Joining me once again from Fan Cave Studios is Fozzie. Say hi, Fozzie. He fell asleep last night in my arms as the Bite Force interview was playing. It was the cutest thing ever. So we're going to see if I can rock him to sleep this episode. Tonight, it is the epic, is that the right word? Conclusion, though all good things must come to an end. And that is the case for this year's annual Fan Appreciation Week, something that I like to do once a year at the end of the IFL regular season. And the reason why I do it there is because the IFL is really what has gotten me to where I am by, just, I don't know if it's happenstance or what you would call it, but it has been the catalyst for so many great things, so many doors opening and opportunities taken and given, for that matter, that it's those fans of the Indoor Football League and the indoor football community as a whole, NAL included, that I really just like to take a week to give back and let the fans come on and talk about what they want to talk about. Jimmy Baconator, he was great to kick things off. And then, of course, tonight we'll have Mitch, as well as Mitch from the Blizzard Cold Front fan club, as they call themselves up there in snowy Green Bay. Yeah, that's my beard. And then Leveland Rob. Leveland Rob is going to come back, not just booty calling him tonight, but actually said, hey, can you be on tomorrow? And he said, yes, I believe I can. So he will be on to close out Fan Appreciation Week because he's one of the fans I appreciate the most. But no, it's been an incredible almost 3 years now. September the 10th will be its 3-year anniversary, September 9th or 10th. But, I mean, what else can you say except for thank you for everything that's gone on? So, Fan Nation, you guys are out there. You're growing. You're strong. You show your love in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. And, just really want to thank you guys. And it's been a really good Fan Appreciation Week. Now, yesterday, we didn't have any fans on, but I did do the Fan Show Awards for this year for the IFL. And I haven't seen them from the IFL yet. Playoffs start this weekend. There will be a week break. And then there will be the championship. So I'm going to assume that they're going to do their awards as well for the season. Otherwise, my God, that's such an injustice for the players, coaches, and fans alike if they don't do their own awards. However, I will put this spin on it for all of you. Go on record that if the IFL does not do its own awards this year, which it wouldn't be the first thing it didn't do, after all, do we remember a little thing called This Week in the IFL? Yeah, didn't happen this year. You had the Fan Show as your This Week 3 times a week in the IFL, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so if they didn't do awards, I feel like that's a weird thing to not do, but who knows? I will make awards, because I've already named the winners. I will make awards or purchase awards to be sent to the winners for the individual awards anyway, of this year's Fan Show Indoor Football League Awards. So there's my little pitch right there, that if the IFL doesn't do it, I've got your back, folks. Okay? Fan Nation of the IFL, if the Indoor Football League does not do awards, I've got you covered. All right? So Bryce Enyard, Jeff Ziemba, Daryl Monroe, and Lorenzo Brown, Peter Garbo, Kaylee Shade, you guys will receive awards from me. Oh, and Coach Dixie Wooten, if the IFL does not do some kind of awards. And I would like to have it's a budget thing, right? I'd love to have the disposable budget for the show to be able to provide legitimate awards for these. We're talking more than just printed and laminated certificates, which I'm sure, would be just fine for some of the people because it's that acknowledgement, right? It's that recognition for the hard work that you've done. But I think that they deserve a little bit more than just a piece of paper with their name on it and what they're winning, because I've gotten those and I don't like them. I like my light bulb trophy from winning Best Media 2018 Spokane Entrepreneurship Award. That's what I like. I like it. It's a symbol and it represents so many things, but it's more than a certificate. I would have been fine with certificate. I really would have been. A piece of paper laminated that said I was Best Media would have been fine with that. But it's that little extra. It's that something that they took it above and beyond in the what I feel is a very clever way. And so I'm very grateful for that. But that's what's in store for tonight. That's what's been going on this week. We will look at the two matchups happening this weekend in the IFL as we have our one but not done playoff round to determine who will be playing in the United Bowl and, most importantly, where it will be played. Will it be Des Moines, Iowa for the first time in franchise history, or is it going to come back to or will it be in Arizona for the first time in their IFL history? But they are the reigning champs. And then, of course, I guess maybe it can only be Sioux Falls if Nebraska wins and Sioux Falls wins. So, who knows? Why are you pawing at the microphone? Do you have something to say? Do you want to say something? Speak. No? Okay. Then quit. That tickles. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to get Fozzie to just chill out here. Anyway, Fan Appreciation Week Part 3, the last one for 2018, and I think it'll be great. So without further ado, let's get to the headlines. And the headlines are that yours truly was on a video segment. That's right. It was recorded last night. It will air tomorrow night, I believe 6 o'clock local time in Nebraska. So they're 2 hours ahead of us here on the West Coast. So that'll actually be 4 o'clock here. I did a video segment with NTV News Nebraska talking about Nebraska Danger and their postseason and what we can expect, what it would take for them to win, and just sort of a reflection on their season so far, which has not been great. But they asked for my opinion. They wanted to know if I wanted to do a spot. I said absolutely, I'd love to do it. Just like when Dave Isaac from NBC Sports and Breakthrough Thinking in Arizona gets a hold of me, he's like, hey, you wanna talk some IFL? Yeah, I'd love to. Let's do it. So that will air tomorrow night. That'll be fun. I'll send the link once I get one. You guys can see me in all of my Skype glory from was video call from within my studio. So that'll be fun. And while we're at it, why don't we go ahead and take a quick look at the breakdown, because headline number one is that the IFL postseason is here. Okay, tomorrow night is when it kicks off, and it's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. It's Nebraska against Iowa. Kickoff once again, 8:05 Eastern, 5:05 Pacific time in Des Moines, Iowa at the Well. I'd love it to be sold out, to be loud and proud. I tweeted out earlier this week that if Iowa hosts and wins the United Bowl and a sold-out Wells Fargo Arena doesn't storm the field, the whole season's a wash. They deserve that there so much. They really do. So Nebraska would take on Iowa. Nebraska has not had the best season, lost 9 straight, and that's not good, right? But one of their four wins has been over the Iowa Barnstormers. So there's that storyline. I really hope that Iowa is not taking them lightly because of their record. I don't think Wooten is. I think that the Storm, the Rattlers, and Iowa play every game like it's a playoff game, and Coach Dixie Wooten has been preaching championship mindset, #championship mindset all season long. Even before they were the number one seed, even before they were the number one standing team or ranked team by either the IFL standings or my weekly power rankings, that's been his spiel, his shtick is championship mindset, because they came so close last year. So why not finish the job this year? Iowa and Nebraska, I think they know each other very well. We're going to see a lot of offense in this one. I could see high scoring, but that Iowa defense against that Nebraska offense, that will be where the game is won and lost. Because if Nebraska can put up points against Iowa's defense, we're in for a great 4 quarters of indoor football. If they can, it might be over before halftime. So that's the matchup to watch there. Then the next day, 9:05 Eastern kickoff, 6:05 Pacific kickoff is going to be the Sioux Falls Storm against the Arizona Rattlers. This is their third matchup of the season. Storm have lost 3 in a row, including last year's United Bowl. So since week 1 of last season, 2017, the Storm have not defeated the Rattlers in regular or postseason. Can they change that this weekend? This is probably going to be like a hell of a game. I mean, it's championship worthy, but at the same time, any combination in my mind of Iowa, Sioux Falls, and Arizona would be a fantastic championship. So we're either going to get Nebraska and Sioux Falls, Nebraska and Arizona, or Iowa and Sioux Falls and Iowa and Arizona. We will not have Sioux Falls and Arizona for the championship. But this one, they're so similar that it's hard to call. I'm going to say this one, first one to 45 wins it, I think. And that one, I don't know, could go to overtime. It's going to come down to turnovers. Ziemba, Rookie of the Year, by my pick. I think he's done a phenomenal job since taking the reins as the quarterback. But they rely so heavily on their run game. So it's going to be up to the Nebraska front or the Sioux Falls front to get back there and make a mess of things. Arizona without Justin Shirk hasn't been a huge impact, but it is that veteran leadership and that playmaking ability that he brings to the table with all the other defenders that they have that are all IFL guys in my mind. And, you know, that's really what this game is going to come down to. So the matchup for this one is going to be the Sioux Falls offense against the Arizona defense. If Lorenzo Brown throws too many interceptions, it might be the dagger for them. So I think it's going to be a home win for both teams. I think we're going to get a fourth one of Iowa and Arizona, but I am leaning towards the idea of Iowa-Sioux Falls just because it's never happened before. And this is the first, maybe the only year that it could happen. Otherwise, they share the same conference when there's more than 6 teams. And it's this matchup between the Storm and the Rattlers, that would normally be the Storm and the Barnstormers. So I would love to see them in a championship game because we've never it's never been possible until now. So that would be my ideal matchup. But Arizona, tough to beat at home. Very tough to beat. But Sioux Falls, if anybody can beat them at home in a postseason setting, it would be the Sioux Falls Storm. So keep an eye on that one. I can't wait. That's going to be the one day of the weekend that I'm not busy. Warped Tour in Ventura, California. My first time to a Warped Tour that has not been at the Gorge. I will be there Sunday. Very excited about the opportunity to go and do media for the last hurrah of Warped Tour, so should be a lot of fun. Now, when it comes to the National Arena League, we do have some matchups this weekend as well. I don't want to forget my guys in the NAL. Lehigh Valley Steelhawks will go to Boston, Mass. to take on the Pirates Saturday at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. And the Maine Mammoths will take on the Jacksonville Sharks, and that also is Saturday at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Now, these seem like very obvious outcomes. Lehigh Valley, I don't know who they can beat this year, if not Maine, who. But any given weekend, like we say, in the indoor football world, which includes the National Arena, any given weekend, be it Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday or sometimes a Monday, is what you're looking for here. And then also we have the Carolina Cobras hosting the Columbus Lions. Now this is a big one, okay? This one is huge. This one also Saturday, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Coach Back is apparently going to wear the Fan Show shirt that I sent him during warm-ups. God, do I hope it brings him good luck. If not, he's going to take it and burn the damn thing. That's going to be a hell of a game, though. The Lions, man, I don't know how real or not real they are. Carolina is very real, okay? Carolina and Mass, very real teams. Jacksonville right up there. But how real is Columbus? It seems like they beat the teams that you would think that they would lose to, and then they lose to the teams that you think that they would beat. In the tougher matchups, I'm not saying like against Lehigh Valley or against Maine, but when it comes to the top four, it's just been one big round robin all season long. This team beat this team, that beat this team, that beat this team, that beat that team. And around it goes. The NFL, there's some headlines there, is expected to suspend Jameis Winston for multiple games, several games. And it's because of an incident that happened. Let me see if I can get the story here. An incident that took place, personal conduct policy incident. Winston has not been notified of his suspension, nor has the team. Well, the word's kind of out now. Who was it? Blake Griffin that found out he was traded via Twitter? Like, this is dumb. How did these guys get this info before the teams or the players? Like, that just seems wrong to me. That just really seems wrong. I'm not even a fan of Winston, and I just think that's wrong. A news organization has published a story about me regarding an alleged incident involving a female Uber driver from approximately 2 years ago. The story falsely accuses me of making inappropriate contact with the driver. I believe the driver was confused as to the number of passengers in the car and who was sitting next to her. The accusation is false, and given the nature of the allegation and increased awareness and consideration of these types of matters, I am addressing this false report immediately. At the time of the alleged incident, I denied the allegations to Uber, yet they still decided to suspend my account. I am supportive of the national movement to raise awareness and develop better responses to concerns of parties who find themselves in these types of situations, but this accusation is false. While I am certain that I did not make any inappropriate contact, I don't want to engage in a battle with the driver, and I regret if my demeanor or presence made her uncomfortable in any way. That was a statement issued by Jameis Winston on November 17th, denying the incident. This is from Scottsdale, Arizona, and back in March 2016, no police report was filed. The NFL began an investigation on November 17th, 2017. This is the system, folks. Ain't it beautiful? Ain't it beautiful? We got BattleBots tomorrow night. Can't wait for that. The matchup of possibly the season, Bite Force versus Endgame. That's going to be incredible. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but my first guest is anxiously awaiting, so give me a moment here. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and I will bring on Mitch Nolan of the Green Bay Blizzard, a superfan of the Blizzard Cold Front. We'll be right back. You're listening to The F.A.N Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The F.A.N Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazzisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It was like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com, or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and joining me now, one of my favorite super fans out there. He is a man that loves the frozen tundra of Green Bay, but most importantly, their Blizzard, and it is Mitch Nolan. Mitch, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Richard. How are you?
Doing good, man. It's always bittersweet when we get to this point of the season because that means that we've got a few more games left. We will crown a champion, but, I've gotten to know so many great players, coaches, and fans over the last couple of years that, I like tuning in and seeing my friends, on the YouTube, or when I do the tour, going in and watching them in action in person, and I'll have to wait till next year for that now, and I'm still heartbroken I wasn't able to make it to Green Bay this year, but you guys are top of my list for next season for sure.
Well, that'd be great because we missed not having you here this year. Last year was a lot of fun, the weekend that you spent in Green Bay.
Yeah, last year was the first ever fan experience pregame show, which I did a few pregame shows this year, one in Arizona, one in Iowa. Of course, Nebraska doesn't really have a fan club, so I couldn't do it with them. But last year, I had some help from another company, and this year it was kind of left all on me. So I did the best that I could for these. But yeah, nothing beats the Blizzard Cold Front pregame show. You guys were a hoot, and the food. Oh man, I even had like brand new pair of stretchy pants to pack with me, so if I gained another 15 pounds, I was prepared.
Well, you didn't have to eat everything we fed you.
Oh, that's it. That's so Green Bay of you to say, Mitch. But we are going into the postseason, and Green Bay is not. You guys got kind of robbed of a game. Cedar Rapids wanted that game, I think, more than anybody because that could have meant maybe them going to the postseason instead of Nebraska. But both them and Nebraska lost in the final week of the regular season, so it didn't really matter much anyway. And I prefer it like that. I like to avoid arguments like, well, what if? So the team with the better record gets the number 4 spot. But Green Bay went through a lot of adversity. The guys that I talked to during the season, Malott, and of course B.J. Hill, and Jordan Endries, and a few others, Brian Hicks as well, they all said pretty much the same word, that it was a lot of adversity that they were trying to overcome. They beat Nebraska for their 2 wins this season, won 2 out of 3 games that they had, and it was possibly a turning point. Didn't turn out that way. The dismissal of Coach Chris Williams, and now we see the era of Coach Corey Robertson. What was your thoughts as the season began, going through the coaching change, and now that it's finally concluded? And what do you think about next year for the Blizzard?
Well, at the beginning of the season, I was very optimistic. As I do, I hit up a few of the preseason workouts, went to some of the tryouts that they had, and I was seeing some really, really good talent. But you never know how good a player is until they're playing in a game against the other talent in the league. And I think it was pretty evident that the Barnstormers and the Storm and the Rattlers have the top talent in the league. And maybe at one point Nebraska had some good talent, and then their quarterback got a real job, and congratulations, and Nebraska went down the tubes the rest of the year. There was some issues. I think Coach Williams had in his mind that he was going to get this team to win with a running game, and so there were some players in some positions, at least that I could tell, that shouldn't have been in those positions. I think Robert Metz is one of those players who started the season as a fullback, basically a blocking back, and in a 2-back set, and it just never really took off the way Coach Williams had wanted to. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're in the mire of losing like 15 out of the last 16 games you've coached, you got all that pressure going on, and it just finally got to the point, I think, where Kathy and Larry Trinkler, the owners of the Blizzard, had to make a change. Now, Corey Roberson is a great young man who's coached in this league for a long time, played in the league actually for the Blizzard at one time. And when he came in, there was kind of I'll call it a come to Jesus meeting in the Blizzard organization. There was, they and this is what Larry Trinkler told me, is they contacted every player. They called every player personally and said, if you're willing to buy in, come back. If you're not, we'll release you and you can do whatever you want. And the first practice, I think they only had 17 players who came back after Chris Williams was let go. But a few more came back. They found some good players. They were starting to make some changes. They were starting to throw the ball a little bit. Brian Hicks, I think, did an okay job as a quarterback. Not a lot of experience in the indoor game, and that's something that indoor team needs is a real dual threat quarterback, somebody who can make the decisions quickly and make the throws quickly, and then also pull it down and get some yards running the ball. And I think that, in my opinion, the top quarterback in the league this year is Jake Metlock down in Cedar Rapids. But it'd be great if he would come to Green Bay. Jake, if you're listening, please come to Green Bay next year.
Yeah, he's got some decisions to make.
Yes, he does. He's quite an athlete. Hopefully, he gets a look maybe at one of these new outdoor leagues. That'll be interesting to see what the talent pool is like next year with these two new outdoor leagues, and or the CFL. A couple of Blizzard players are in the CFL this year, and I'm anxious for next year, and mostly I'm anxious for next year because there will be a next year. The news in Cedar Rapids was great. Always loved tailgating with the idiot section in Cedar Rapids, and I would have been sad if they had been gone. Hopefully we get Bloomington, Illinois this year. Hopefully there's some rumors going around. I don't subscribe to rumors, but if any of them are true, it would be great. A team in Tucson would be great for the Rattlers, and I'm always optimistic, Richard, that my team is going to be great next year, and part of that is probably because I'm also a Chicago Cubs fan.
Well, I mean, that proved to be true, a couple of seasons ago. So your faith is not misplaced. It just might have longer droughts than others, have to be put into a bit of a longer queue. But, when Green Bay announced its roster at the beginning of the season, we kind of saw what Coach Williams' vision, I guess, was towards the end of last season. It just seemed like they were stacked and poised for a great run. And I don't think that Coach Williams is a lackluster coach at all. I think the players speak genuinely when they talk about that they believe in what he preaches. There was some kind of disconnect there because when you have a roster that good, there is something wrong between the coaching and the execution. So I'm glad that Coach Williams found another calling up in Canada, being a regional scout from Montreal, and I'm glad that Coach Roberson is finding his footing in the professional game as a first-time head coach. So I think you guys are headed in the right direction. There was just I don't know, too much going on at once, and of course Cedar Rapids and Nebraska. Nebraska got hit with the injury bug really hard, and that's tough to turn around. But I think if we can get the Steamwheelers, if Bloomington can commit to coming back, because apparently West Michigan has already crossed the line with the CIF. They made an agreement that they could do a kind of a season this year if they agreed to play in the CIF next year, and they've made that bet and they will sleep in it. I don't support the decision, but when it's a business decision, I guess you do what you have to do. So Quad City, Bloomington, I think would be great. Tucson would be another one. I think 8 to 10 teams is what this league really needs. It's certainly been entertaining with 6, with the 3-way tie that we have, which leads me to my next question. Do you have a pick for the United Bowl? I mean, you know enough players around the league and you interact with enough fans that I'm sure there's got to be someone you're secretly pulling for.
Well, I'm hoping for a United Bowl in Des Moines with Arizona and the Barnstormers. I think they are head and shoulders the 2 best teams in the league, having spent last Saturday night in Sioux Falls partying with some great people, the Section O folks. But that game, the Blizzard had a chance in that game, 3 overtimes. I just don't think that Sioux Falls, the way they're playing defensively right now, could be either Arizona or Iowa. So I think that an Iowa-Arizona championship game will be great, and I think that I think it's finally the Barnstormers' year. I think that they will pack the well, and it will be Barnstormers as the champions this year.
Yeah, if the championship is in Iowa, it needs to be sold out. I mean, plain and simple, or at least just packed where it looks sold out. Just like, if Green Bay were to go to the championship, I would expect nothing less from that fan base, because it's honestly what you guys deserve, what the teams and the players deserve as well. So I just hope that, because there's been some opportunity for there to be, record-breaking attendance this year, and the guys have certainly earned it in Iowa with the Barnstormers, but it just, you watch the broadcast and it looks so scattered. Now, it's a big place, the Well, it really is, but I would really like to see these guys, if they host a championship, to host it in front of one of the biggest crowds they've ever had, and if they win, the fans storm the field. I mean, it would just be a really good feel-good moment for that team. I like the idea of the Storm versus Barnstormers just because it's a championship that we never thought would be possible, and it is this year, and it may not be next year if they go back to conferences. However, to your point, Arizona is playing fantastic football. We've had 3 games with the Barnstormers in Arizona so far, and not one of them has disappointed. In fact, one of them was my pick for Game of the Year with that 2-point conversion. So I think we're in store for a great United Bowl regardless of the matchup. And then I also wanted to know from you, as far as the let's see, being a fan, next year you're excited for Cedar Rapids, for Green Bay. Do you have a wish list at all for next year? Like who you would like to see, like how many teams and what teams in the league?
I agree with you. 10 would be great. 12 would be even better. I'd like to see, not that I have any a misery towards the Arizona Rattlers or anything, but it'd be nice if there was maybe 2 teams closer down there. Maybe one of the Texas teams could figure out a way to flip the switch. And then I think it would be great for the IFL if we could get one of the long-standing CIF guys to come back to bury the hatchet, maybe Omaha or Sioux City or one of those to come back to the IFL. I do believe the IFL is the better of the 2 leagues, and it would be fun for me as a fan to travel to Omaha. I've never been to Omaha for a game, so if they were to switch over, I would be there in a heartbeat. And so many years, so many great games in Moline for the Steam Wheelers. I would love to go back and party with those guys again.
Yeah, I hear such great things about Quad City, and the photos and the feedback that I've gotten from people that have attended games. I mean, that's really what the IFL should be. That should be its bar, its goal. And I think Iowa, that should be their goal, is to look like what it looks like in Quad City for one of their games. And I think they did a fantastic job in their first year back after such a long hiatus. It's always good to see a team. We love a comeback, and we love when a team can come back and it's successful, because we all know that once they fold up shop for a season, it's then to 5, and then it probably is never going to come back again. And if it does, it's not the same, but they have gone against the odds, which I think has been great for that organization. Those players especially really deserve that. But yeah, I think that they are IFL quality, as well as Omaha or even Sioux City. I'd like to get a bit more rivalry and have a bit more activity out west. If Idaho can get their stuff together, I don't know how travel would work for them, but I think a bit more westward expansion, since the NAL has the East Coast locked up pretty tight, and they're doing a pretty well job also. But Mitch, again, I missed you, buddy, and I miss all of you guys in Green Bay. I will be back next year. Hopefully it's for one of their several wins, one of their many victories in the 2019 campaign. But hey, take care of yourself. I hope that if you do decide to attend the United Bowl, wherever it is, that I'll run into you, and we can grab a beer and we can talk shop. Alrighty?
That would be a lot of fun, Richard. Thank you for the great job that you do, and I always enjoy listening to your show.
All right, Mitch. Well, this is Fan Appreciation Week, and I appreciate fans like you. You are pretty much family at this point, as well as so many in Green Bay. So tell everyone I said hello, and we'll be talking again soon, all righty?
We will. Thank you.
Yep, you take care. Have a good night. That was Mitch Nolan of the Green Bay Blizzard Cold Front Fan Club. It's quite a mouthful there, because they serve mouthfuls of food. You don't have to eat the food we serve you. Mitch. You silly man. Silly man. We all know that's not how that works. Fozzie knows that's not how that works. Okay. Up next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring on Mr. Leveland Rob. So we will be right back with more of the Fan Show after this. All right, we are back and here for the epic conclusion of the 2018 Fan Appreciation Week, Part 3. The last one of the year is the Fan Show Booty Call, but he is apparently he's taking his business to other places now. It's like a timeshare with this man. It's Leveland Rob, or Producer Rob. How you doing, Rob?
How dare you make me wait 10 minutes after you told me you were going to call me? I'm a very, very busy man, Teeman. You should know better. I am wonderful, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. This is one of my secret pleasures, guilty pleasures of the year, because I think that it may not be the celebrity guest lineup or the special guests that people may have gotten accustomed to, but it's a week that I feel is important nonetheless, because the show would be nothing without you guys that contribute, that tune in, that give feedback. And you've been one of my favorites ever since we ran into each other on Twitter somehow, between your Browns misery and then our wrestling fandom. But
Indeed.
No, it's been good. It's been good. And you've got a lot of stuff going, which I'm happy about. If I have to lease you out to other people, that that works. But what's new? What do you got going on?
Well, let's see. I am. Some of you, if any of you have ever followed me because of the Fan Show, you may also know me by my new moniker on Twitter, which is Producer Rob. And if any of you are subscribers to the Wrestling Observer website, you may know me as my as the video producer for the Brian and Vinny show, and sometimes podcast host as well. I was actually joined Brian and Vinny Sunday night after the very mediocre Money in the Bank pay-per-view to talk to them about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
yeah. But yeah, no, I've been doing that since on and off since January. So they just started adding a video service to the subscription site, and it was supposed to be a trial to see how it went, and it went very well. So they had a need for a second video producer, and just so happened that Brian asked me, and I was more than willing to help him out.
Well, there you go. So are myself and Vinny and the rest gonna ever like collaborate? I feel like this is a custody battle that should just be a joining of forces.
Yes,
for some fun.
There's enough of me to go around, Richard.
Well, I'm glad that you have your gigs, because they always sound like a lot of fun, and I know that you wouldn't do them unless they were fun, which is why
Absolutely.
You're always just a phone call away, which I appreciate, especially those late hours. But Money in the Bank. Can we just first address that the WWE's biggest mistake in the last, 2-3 years now, is having major pay-per-views the night after an NXT takeover. It's just poor planning on their part, because you're setting yourself an impossible bar 24 hours before your main roster, your top talent, is supposed to go out there and kill it, and then you leave it in the hands of the creative. And no, like, you got to have them like a week apart. You put takeover a week after the big events.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I had actually said at the end of the show, I said, after watching the New Japan Dominion show a couple weeks ago, which was, if you haven't seen it, you're a wrestling fan, you're missing out on probably one of the greatest shows of the last several years at best, because that was amazing. But following that and following the last takeover, which was also fantastic, my expectations of disappointment for Money in the Bank were pretty high, because I knew that there was no way that Money in the Bank was going to come close to comparing to those two. And I'm happy to say that I didn't hate Money in the Bank. So in that regards, it was a success, but it was still very average. And you would hope that the top wrestling promotion in the company could figure out how to put on a show that both pleases fans who are into good working and good storytelling, and also find a way to not shove Roman Reigns down everyone's throat. But I digress.
Yeah. It's just really disappointing, because I looked at the card for Money in the Bank, and one, as I mentioned on Tuesday's show with Shane Merriman, that it seems like they're pushing for Money in the Bank to be one of their big four, which would make it the big five now. And I'm okay with that, but you've got to book it better, which it's hard to miss as hard as they did, given who they had in certain matches. Of course, Rollins and Elias stole the show, but then again, there's been a lot of support and popularity for the Intercontinental title, because it's the only damn one on the main roster that you get to see from Raw defended on a regular basis. But also, it's just, you put guys like Braun, Samoa Joe, The Miz, and Balor, and then whoever was going to represent the New Day turned out to be Kofi, and Bobby Roode in the ladder match, and it's almost like you have 1 to 2 that maybe wouldn't go over well if they win. And the rest, it's like you've got so many possibilities. Now, I felt Balor needed it the most, but you could have had Joe win it. You could have had Rude win it, even though it's probably a little early for him. But there were just so many options, and you put it again on the one guy that doesn't need a contract, a briefcase to cash in, because he's already been in the title picture so much the last year. And his name is not Roman Reigns, which has been a huge surprise. But all these other guys, it's like, what are you waiting for? What are you doing? And I wish they would have just had 4 Money in the Bank ladder matches total. So 2 for the men, 2 for the women, 1 for Raw, 1 for SmackDown. Because it just, the card was so loaded with, what the hell was going on with that Bobby Lashley, Sami Zayn match? They could have been in Money in the Bank for Raw, and given the opportunity to 2 other SmackDown superstars for their own Money in the Bank. If it's going to be 4 hours, at least entertain us for 4 hours,
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, the Bobby Lashley Sami Zayn match, for what they did with it, that should have been a 3-minute match tops. I mean, there was really no point giving Sami any sort of offense in that, since it basically ended up just being squash. So that was silly. I think Ronda Nia Jax, although it was a good match, and I think Ronda is without question a star in the making.
Yeah.
That match also was probably they could have cut that in half easily, and then still did what they did and not make it look. I mean, the way they set it up is, I mean, I know that I'm guessing anyhow that they want to try and set it up for an eventual, Ronda Alexa feud, which is, certainly fine. But the way they did it, you could have set that up much better, or at least done the same thing and done it in half the time. And just, these 4-hour pay-per-views on a regular basis, it's going to get old quick. And I think they're going to end up seeing it.
Yeah.
At some point. And I think before too long, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they go back down to 3 hours and maybe doing like the split brand pay-per-views again.
They just, split brand, whatever. It just, there's too much that they're trying to do, and I don't know how it hasn't caught on that less is more for them. I mean, they get ridiculed for how much production is going on. I mean, I don't even know what the hell the Raw and SmackDown themes are anymore, because we don't hear them at the beginning of the show, and it's just LED lights, no pyro, and oh, here comes Roman Reigns. It's just on repeat, and I don't know how you hit the mark so well in NXT and you miss it by so much on the main roster. It's almost a crime.
Well, I can answer that in 2 words: Vince McMahon.
Yeah. You just think that he would have caught on by now, though.
Yeah, you would think, but I mean, I suppose if Vince wasn't a stubborn man, Vince wouldn't be where he is now. So I guess you take the bad with the good, but at some point the bad, it's going to get to a point where something's got to give.
Yeah. Your thoughts as a Cleveland Browns fan? I saw trending today Baker Mayfield, and he went one-on-one with Colin Cowherd, which I'm always rooting for the not Colin Cowherd in those matchups. Your feelings about Mr. Mayfield, him being your potential franchise quarterback, him being the number 1 pick, and, of course, what it means for 2018.
Yeah, first of all, I saw the clips. I in bits and pieces, I think I've seen most of, if not all of the interview. And I thought that, first of all, I thought it was great that Baker Mayfield immediately saw him on Twitter and basically said, "You know what? Have me on your show. We're going to talk about this." I thought that was great. Most guys will just, they'll beef or they'll set off a smarmy comment, whatever, and be done with it. So I was like that. I thought Baker handled himself amazingly. I mean, as somebody had posted a Twitter poll on Twitter asking, is your opinion higher or lower of Baker Mayfield after seeing him on hearing him on Colin Cowherd's show? And I'm like, I don't know how your opinion could be lower of him after that, because he handled himself amazingly. And if he handles himself as the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns half as well as he handled himself on that show today, I think good things are coming for my boys in orange and brown.
Well, then.
I was going to say, that being said, though, as for 2018, if he sees the field at all, I'm going to be very upset. I want him to sit a year. And I think he can. I think, as long as Tyrod stays healthy, I think he is going to be a nice bridge to let Baker sit and, get used to the speed of the game, learn the playbook, get used to being under center and all the little things that he still needs to do before he can be, a successful quarterback.
Yeah, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be growing pains, but I think that what he gets a lot of criticism for is what he shouldn't be getting a lot of criticism for. He defends himself, and he defends the decisions around him, and I don't feel like that's wrong. I don't. But I do love when an athlete goes after a guy like Cowherd and asks, did you play football beyond high school? And I know that at any point in time, at any interview, a player could ask me, like, did you play ball? No, then, like, how do you know what you're talking about? And that's the thing, is that I've always made a point on this show to not act as if I know. Because I don't. And these guys that sit there with their stat sheets and go through how this guy sucks and this guy's the greatest of all time, and then they get called out by actual athletes. It's just like, I never want to find myself in that position, so I never put myself in that position to begin with, because it's really not my place to say. It's just not.
Well, and the thing is, I think with somebody like Colin Coward, or who's, I think, a poor man's Skip Bayless. I mean, and Bayless is the same way, or Stephen A. I mean, these guys, I think at one point they may have been, or at least intended to be, good sports journalists, but realized that they could get a lot more reaction from people by, spouting off these outlandish takes and, flip-flopping and, whatever else they do to get, people riled up and angry at them. I mean, they're basically, TV versions of internet trolls.
Yeah.
And that's what they do, and that's their gimmick, and, great for them, it works. But I think, you can either realize that it's a gimmick and ignore it, or not realize it's a gimmick and get yourself all worked up for it. And, as the infamous Hulk Hogan quote goes, don't work yourself into a shoot, brother.
All right, last question for you, and it's a big one. Have you been keeping up with BattleBots this season?
I have not had a chance to yet, only because I don't watch a lot of TV during the week normally. I'm just with the various and sundry things going on in my life, work and other work and dadding and trying to get a couple hours a week in for jiu-jitsu. I literally barely watch any TV on a regular basis. That being said, I do have BattleBots on my DVR, and as soon as I get some time to go in and watch it, I have absolutely intended to go through and marathon my way through it.
Okay, because we've got another great matchup this weekend, or tomorrow night, I should say, and one of my favorite, probably main events that I don't even know what the outcome is because I didn't see this one, but Endgame versus Bite Force. Both have been very dominant this season. Lucky, son of Waiachi, that one's probably going to be one-sided. Sawblaze, though, has done very well there against Mohawk, and then Mecha Rampage against Whiplash, and finally Chomp against Overhaul. This is a very low-key good card because there's not a bunch of household names in there like Tombstone, Minotaur, and Yeti and others, but this one should be good. So, I mean, it's free on the Science Channel app. You don't even have to have a subscription of anything. That you get it like on Wednesday instead of Friday. But yeah, just download the Discovery Channel app. If you've got cable, then you can do it. You can watch it right after it airs. Just make a little time for yourself. Watch some BattleBots. You know you want to.
Oh, well, I mean, that goes without saying.
All right, well, Rob, I want to thank you for being the part of the finale for this year's Fan Appreciation Week. I appreciate all you guys that are, I guess, really more friends than fans at this point. You and I, we still have yet to meet in person, like in the reality that is the world. But I feel like that's coming to a close here very soon. In fact, I may have a surprise for you at the end of the month. We will see, but there's a little teaser for that. Regardless, though, we're going to run into each other at some point. And,
we most certainly will.
And I want you to have a good weekend. I'm glad for your little side gig there that you've got going. And he is producer Rob. And thank you again for being part of the show.
Thank you. And real quick, if I may, anyone wants to hit me up on Twitter, please do, at levelandrounds.com. And if you're not a Wrestling Observer subscriber and would like to be, video.f4wonline.com for the video service, of which I am the producer of every Tuesday night and Sunday pay-per-view nights, and F4W Online for everything else. It is a fantastic website run by Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, and if you are a wrestling fan, you need to be a subscriber to the site.
Sounds good. There you have it. The words from Mr. Producer Rob, or Leveland Rob, or just Mr. Rob, if you have seen...
Jackass, whatever.
If you've seen Never Been Kissed. All right, man. You have a good weekend, and thanks again.
Thanks, brother. Take care.
You too. All right, folks. That's going to do it. That concludes Fan Appreciation Week 2018. Fozzie is biting me right now. Fozzie, I'm not edible. Stop it. But don't forget, you can subscribe to the podcast if you can't listen live, and that is iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. And, of course, Spreaker.com/user/The Fan Show is the exact web address for how you get to my profile on Spreaker, which has both the podcast form, and it's where I broadcast to you live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from within the Fan Cave studio. You can also listen live on thefanshow.com. Don't forget, follow on all major social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and there's a Snapchat as well. Snapchat and Instagram are simply The Fan Show, but Twitter, @FanShowOfficial, and Facebook is facebook.com/FanShowOfficial. And we are officially out for the weekend. Enjoy the Indoor Football League playoffs. I'm going to enjoy Warped Tour and a nice weekend away from it all. Out of Spokane, out of sight, out of mind. Going to go down to sunny Cali and spend some time with my buddy Jeremy Funk. So, weekend getaway. We'll be back next week for all new episodes of The Fan Show. Until then, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners! And remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks!
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's blood? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love The Fan Show.